The TV and radio presenter Ellis Hill has died at the age of 82. She was a familiar face and voice in Norfolk in the 70s, both on Anglia and on a BBC radio programme called Roundabout East Anglia, which was the forerunner of Radio Norfolk. She also presented on national radio, hosting the Night Ride programme. Tea Time producer Paul Hayes looks back on the life of Ellis Hill.
A piece of music called Lazy by Horst Jankowski, the theme tune that, for much of the 1970s, opened BBC Radio Norfolk's predecessor, a Radio 4 programme called Roundabout East Anglia. For most of its life, Roundabout was presented by Ellis Hill. When I interviewed her for a documentary about the programme in 2012, she told me how she came to join the BBC in Norwich.
I, at that time, was working down at Anglia Television. I was doing a women's programme called About Women, but that came to an end. But at the same time, BBC, Roundabout East Anglia, was advertising for a new presenter. And so I got in touch, and I was lucky that I got it.
Ellis joined Roundabout East Anglia in 1975, taking over from former Blue Peter presenter Christopher Trace. She went on to host the programme for the next 3 years, and when I spoke to her in 2012, it was clear that she looked back very fondly on her time at the All Saints Green studios in Norwich.
REA listeners just knew where they were, and it meant something to them. East Anglia. And they joined in the fun of it.
Anyway, Andrew Gunton of Highview, Scarning, Dereham is 5 today. Hello, Andrew. Lots of love to you, darling, on your birthday. From Daddy, Mummy, Sister Rachel, Nanny and Granddaddy Lane, Auntie Chris, Auntie Marion and their families.
We had what I call the porridge man. This porridge man had just won an award for the amount of porridge that he could eat. We'd got the canteen to supply him with many bowls of porridge. Bowl after bowl after bowl. When we'd finished the programme, neither I or anybody else could eat any breakfast after watching him eating all these bowls of porridge. I think probably I'd done so many years and I wanted a break from getting up 5 o'clock every morning. I just wanted a break. And then an opportunity came up for me to go for BBC Radio 2 News. So I did that.
In the 1980s, Ellis ended up not just reading the news, but presenting nationally for BBC Radio 2. From 1986, covering for breakfast show presenter Derek Jameson from time to time, and then regularly hosting the Night Ride programme until 1992.
The Late Night Show for late night people. Night Ride Radio 2.
After her stint on Night Ride came to an end, Ellis moved to Austria to work for Blue Danube Radio in Vienna. She turned 82 last month and died on Saturday evening after suffering from a lung infection. Back in 1980, she'd found the time for one more appearance on the programme with which she was perhaps most closely identified here in Norfolk, when she was a special guest on the final episode of Roundabout East Anglia.
And that's it from me, John Mountford.
And from me, Ellis Hill.
And from everybody assembled in the studio. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening.
Paul Hayes looking back on the life of a great voice of East Anglian radio, Ellis Hill, who's died aged 82.